Off. Welcome, everybody. We are excited about the opportunity to come speak with you today here live on Facebook. If you're watching a recording of it, hey, you're going to be in for a great treat. The next 30 minutes, Jim and I are going to be talking about the extraordinary Lifestyle Entrepreneur Challenge that we're going to be launching and why we decided to launch this 8-week challenge and what you can benefit from if you are in the space of lifestyle entrepreneurship. Along here with me, Jim Cathcart, for those of you who've been hiding under a rock and don't know who this superstar is, the motivational expert. Jim is a close friend and a business partner. And Jim and I have this crazy passion for living extraordinary lives, and we also have a passion for designing businesses and building the opportunity of entrepreneurship around a fun and exciting and extraordinary lifestyle. And Jim's had 40 years of experience doing it, and I've been following in his footsteps for quite a few years myself, and have had an opportunity to kind of take some of the tidbits, the strategies, the ideas from what Jim has done and implemented them into my own life and helped myself to create a nice business model that gives me lots of freedom and flexibility to do life, family, friends, travel. And today we're going to be talking a little bit more about how to do that, what it looks like, and then how we're going to help you to do that inside the next 8 weeks at no cost. This is completely no cost to you. We're going to give a ton of value to 100 people. We're going to cap it out at 100 people who want to participate. If you registered for this, you're in. If you did not, you want to make sure that you contact us at theextraordinarylife.com and raise your hand and let us know that you're interested, because once the 100 people join and participate, we are going to close the door for the next 8 weeks. So, Jim, welcome to today's show.
Thank you. It's exciting to be here. I'll tell you what, we were talking about, or David was talking about, extraordinary lifestyle. A lifestyle entrepreneur is somebody who chooses a job or a career path based on the lifestyle it's going to provide to them, rather than just choosing it on the revenue model or the business model typically chosen. And one of the things that I've heard from so many of my colleagues over all the last 40 years, or at least the last 20 out of 40, is they say to me, Jim, I want your life. I want to live like you live, because I seem to have chosen a path that brings with it an awful lot of, just general life benefits as well as business success. I've had the extreme privilege and honor of earning all of the top awards in the world of professional speaking. I mean, literally. The Golden Gavel Award from Toastmasters International, which they've given to Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Nido Qubein, Walter Cronkite, for heaven's sakes, people, my heroes over the years. And I received that back several years ago. I received the Cavett Award, which is the Lifetime Achievement Award for the National Speakers Association, that goes to the person who's deemed most like our founder, Cavett Robert. And I'm one who received that. They give one a year. It's kind of like an Oscar. I've been inducted into the Professional Speaker Hall of Fame, the Sales and Marketing Hall of Fame in London. On and on. So I've gotten that side of success. I've written 18 books. 3 of them have become international bestsellers. And I'm known worldwide for my book, Relationship Selling. And the term relationship selling was not in wide use when I started talking about it back in the 80s with my then partner, Dr. Tony Alessandra, who's still my best friend. And I wrote the first book by the title Relationship Selling. Basic idea of that is a relationship is an asset, or it ought to be, and you ought to manage your relationships as business properties, assets that you can control the value of. And on top of that, I'm a life member of the American Motorcyclist Association. I've toured the Rockies. I've toured the Alps. I've toured part of Canada, much of the United States on a motorcycle, with my wife on the back seat on many of those trips, my son on others, and solo on other trips. I play the guitar and sing in nightclubs. I'm a rock and roll singer. I do folk music, popular music, country. All that. I've got about 400 or 500 songs that I know well enough to do. And recently in Taipei, Taiwan, I recorded my first music album. So that was kind of a hoot. The group Lincoln Park had recorded in this studio a few weeks before. And my client, I was over there doing a lecture tour, and he said, "You play guitar during every spare minute. Why don't we cut an album?" So we went into that studio and recorded 19 songs. Now I've got my own CD. I run mountain trails 3 days a week. I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying this to illustrate the point that I've chosen a lifestyle. I've chosen a business that provides me or affords me the opportunity to live that kind of a life. Years ago, Cavett Robert, founder of the National Speakers Association, and Bill Gove, first president of the group, I heard them at two separate conferences, and I was selling Earl Nightingale's motivational recordings door to door to businesses at that time. I was in my 20s. And I met Cavett and I met Bill Gove, and I talked with them about being a professional speaker. And I said, "What's it like?" And they said, "Well, in Cavett's case," he said, "I do about 200 speeches a year." 200? I said, "How does that work?" And he told me about it. And he flew from city to city giving speeches all the time. And I thought, that's thrilling, but you won't have a life. I mean, your life will be an airport or a meeting room, right? And I said, "Well, I don't want to do that, but I sure love what you're doing for a living. I'd like to get into that field." And so I started pursuing that path of training and development to be a subject expert and good at giving speeches. And I started promoting myself as a motivational speaker in my late 20s. Well, it worked. And before long, I was doing, at the peak, 123 engagements a year. Now, pause for a second. 123 separate speaking engagements in 1 year means 246 round trips from home to the speaking engagement and back. And in most cases, those engagements were not in my then hometown at first of Tulsa, Oklahoma, or later in San Diego, La Jolla, where I lived for 20 years. So I was in an airport all the time. And I had to adjust my own lifestyle and my communication processes with my wife and my young son to allow me to be out of town and speaking for another client somewhere, and at the same time maintain a quality connection with them back home. And they agreed to go along with it, and sure enough, we made it work. And then years later, when I got to a point where I could choose to cut back on the size of my external commitments, I cut it back to 50 or 60 engagements a year and ended up spending lots of time at home as well as an adequate amount of time on the road, and have been able to generate hundreds of thousands of dollars in speaking fees annually for an entire generation now. Well, that's one form of lifestyle choice. Yesterday, there was a gentleman here at my home who was taking out a huge bird of paradise plant and replacing it with bougainvillea plants. And he too had chosen a lifestyle. He loves gardening. He loves landscaping. He likes to have his fingers in the dirt, loves to be outdoors and have his own time clock. And his crew is a group of people that are not full-time employees for him. They're project workers. So he hires them as needed for the various jobs. And he gets to live a lifestyle he enjoys. He drives a cool-looking pickup truck, dresses like a rock and roller, kind of Western style. And that's kind of fun. So think about your
rock and roller Western style. I would have liked to see that dude.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. And his name's Hernan, like Hernando without the dough on the end, right? Yeah.
Nice. Sounds like a rock and roller.
He was making good dough. But anyway, that's what David and I are talking about when we say lifestyle entrepreneur. And I just wanted everyone to get a feel for, what all that means. I'm going to throw it to you in just a second, David. I want to add one item of interest. Today is Tuesday, and on Thursday morning, I'm hopping in a car to go to the airport to fly to Shanghai, where I'll be delivering a lecture in China to about 1,000 people. And then I go to Chengdu, which would be about where Dallas is in the USA, if you were looking at China right smack in the middle. And I'm going to be speaking to another 1,000 or so there. And then flying from there to Wrocław, Poland, where I'm addressing 3,000 people in a multi-level organization called FM Group. And that'll be a 90-minute keynote for that massive gathering of people. And then I fly home. 12 days from the time I leave my home till the time I get back. And I'm literally going completely around the world. I'm circumnavigating the globe in 12 days, and it doesn't even seem rushed. Wow. This will be the third time in my career I've circumnavigated the globe on speaking tours. And I don't do it often, but what a thrill it is. And I'm flying business class, so I get the sleeper seats that go flat, and all of that. Yeah, I mean, if I had chosen a different path, I could have been human resource director somewhere, or I could have been the head of a corporation of some type, with more roots in the ground. But I wouldn't have had the lifestyle that I've enjoyed this way. And I get to take my wife or my son or my friends with me from time to time. So, it's just been a wonderful thing. And there are lots of other people doing the same thing, but in different fields. And David and I want to explore with you over time, how can you make more choices that take the job you have and craft it, tailor it to be a more perfect fit to the life you want to live. You don't have to change employers, but you can change your choices and craft the life you want when thinking strategically about it.
Yeah, well, obviously the people that are watching this can tell exactly the reason why I chose to partner with Jim Cathcart on this, because he truly has lived an extraordinary life, and he continues to live an extraordinary life. He brags about the fact that he's 70, and he's probably more fit now than he was when he was 40. And he continues.
I'm definitely more fit now.
Definitely. And it's not just it's not just about, becoming Jim Cathcart or being a speaker, because the principles that Jim put into his business are applicable to anybody that wants to run their own business. And that could be something from a health coaching business to becoming a professional speaker to becoming a consultant, or maybe
even being a lawyer or an accountant or something like that. When you're working for individual clients on an assignment basis, you can structure things so that it gives you more freedom.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that are watching this right now. A couple of them have already commented in the live session that have said that they like to ride too. So this is going to be an extraordinary ride. It's going to be an opportunity for you to clarify the destination and where you want to go and the route that you want to take to get there. Because if you could, go back and look at Jim's history and many of the other successful leaders out there, the authors, the speakers, the ones that have been our influencers, they would say to you that their path was chosen by them. And even though it didn't go exactly the way that they planned, they have circumnavigated their own route, and they've made it an extraordinary trip. And this will be a wild trip for those people that decide to partner up with us. We're going to talk about creating your life plan and developing a business plan, not something that you're going to turn into investors necessarily, but something that you can use as a business guide, something that you can actually see the checkpoints along the way and where you're going to want to be 6 months from now, 12 months from now, setting some specific goals, not being too tough on yourself, but knowing that there's a measurement process to get you to living an extraordinary life and building an extraordinary business. And then we're going to talk really into marketing your business, how to develop a client system that has an annuity stream of referrals. Jim has developed a great program. He already kind of let the cat out of the bag. His relationship selling program is a great program for anybody, no matter what business that you're in or what service you're selling. You're basically in a position where you're developing relationships. And he's going to break down that particular program in baby steps. And he's going to give you resources and tools that you can use to develop your own client acquisition system that works because the business model works, not because you're working all the time. You can actually go out there and take those rides and get on the back of that bike, where you can go take the trips and you can feel like that the business is actually working because the business model works, not because you're slaving away and you're putting more time and effort in. We're also going to be talking about developing a team of people that you can use, whether it's to be delegating things to independent contractors or providers, Jim has used a tremendous amount of delegation to keep his overhead low. He used to have a staff and used to have office space. He didn't want to have that anymore because he didn't want to have all the stress and the employees and all that kind of stuff. So Jim, talk a little bit more about how you have run a business that is very focused on your lifestyle and not necessarily on having a bunch of employees.
Yeah, back in 2001, I was living in La Jolla, California, which is paradise. And my son and his wife lived in Santa Barbara. And between us was the metroplex known as Los Angeles. Not a fun place to drive through. Well, our son and daughter-in-law had a grandchild. And so Paula, my wife, said, hey, we got to go see the grandchild every day. So each week we would have to drive through LA and go visit them and then drive back through LA to get home. And after a while, I said, this has got to stop. Something's got to change. And so we did the typical thing, move toward the grandchildren, right? So Paula and we were sitting there in La Jolla, and I said, I've got a staff. I've got roots here. I've got a lease on this office space in downtown La Jolla. I love my lifestyle, but I really do want to be closer to the kids. So what could we do? Well, we started exploring and making lifestyle a priority. We chose Thousand Oaks, Westlake Village, which is on the hills just above the Ventura Plain, Ventura, Oxnard, Camarillo area, which is agricultural land. And where we are in Thousand Oaks now, we're right among the Santa Monica Mountains, just over which is Malibu on the coast. And we moved here. We were able to buy a home that cost less than a similar home would have cost in Santa Barbara or La Jolla. So we saved money on our home. At the same time, I was able to let my staff get new jobs. I helped them. And the woman who had been managing Tony's business used to work for Tony and me when we were partners. And Tony said, why don't you, since you're letting your staff go, why don't you have Holly manage your bookings? And I said, well, then I'd sort of indirectly work for you. He said, well, why don't we both become her first clients and set her up in her own business? So we met with Holly, and she said, yeah, I could leave Tony, take over that function that I'm already doing in the office that I'm already in, sign the lease over, from Tony to me, and you guys be my first clients. Yeah, that works. It took us about 15 minutes to make that decision. And within a matter of weeks, my staff had found new positions, and Paula and I moved to Thousand Oaks, where our current home is, and started outsourcing everything. And for the first many years, it was all outsourced to Holly, and then she added other clients, and her business grew. And ever since that time, I've been using virtual assistants. I've been doing project-based employment of other people instead of full-time. And I don't lease an office. I've got a nice office here in my home. And life is sweet.
Yeah, there's so many opportunities to build a really handsome income while you have the flexibility to do life on your terms. And, to have a team in place, I know that Jim has his favorites, and I've got some favorites that I delegate projects to, and hiring virtual assistants and leveraging technology, booking calendared appointments using technology. I mean, I didn't think that this stuff was possible, but as I began to explore and as I got clear on what I wanted, Jim, then other things begin to fall into place. And I know that inside your book, the Self-Motivation Handbook, which we'll be referencing quite regularly inside of this 8-week Extraordinary Lifestyle Entrepreneur Challenge, you need to get clear on what it is that you want. And that may
David, that's the thing that drives existence on earth. Each entity, each living being, if they express what they want in a way that others can tell, they tend to get it. And things go the direction of what we want when what we want is not harmful or intrusive or ignoring the needs of other people. You get up in the morning, and one of the first questions that hits you is, what do you want for breakfast? This morning, my wife, she was cooking, so she asked, What do you want for breakfast? Well, we had eggs for breakfast. Okay. She could have assumed that and just fixed eggs, and I would have eaten those too. But the first question that was posed to me this morning was, what do you want? When I pick up the phone, that telephone is asking me, what do you want? Give me the number so I know where to go. I'm happy to serve you, but you got to tell me what you want, right? Same thing when I get onto my email and everything else, when I get in my car. Every moment of your life, the rest of the world wants to know, the universe wants to know, what do you want? And when you get used to clarifying what you want, when you become intentional about every aspect of living, then you start getting a whole lot more of what you want. You might say, no, I've lots of times I express what I want and I don't get it. Yeah, me too. But the ratio's in my favor now because I've learned how to think, how to communicate, how to act, how to live day to day, how to make choices in a way that emphasize what it is I'm seeking, what it is I want, not in a selfish way. But if I'm seeking to achieve a goal, that's the want. And that's what life revolves around, because we are goal achieving or target seeking mechanisms in the way that we're wired.
Yeah, and each and every one of us has to come to that point where we actually know what it is that we want. And this is part of the challenge. I mean, some of you already know what you want, and it's just a matter of going and getting it. Maybe you've run into some mental roadblocks in terms of maybe there's been a certain amount of fear where you just didn't want to step out and grow, or maybe you stepped out and tried to grow and you failed. Jim and I have done some of that, and we understand some of those failures and some of that timidity that can kind of start settling in, that can settle you back on ordinary results in your business and ordinary results in your life and in your health. And pretty soon it's become a disease and you're surrounded and you don't even know that you're sick. You just think that you are procrastinating to the next week or the next season. Hey, you know what? When everything when the kids go away, then I'm going to go after it. Well, before you know it, the kids are long gone and you still haven't done anything that's moved you closer to the life that you wanted to live. And so we're going to take this challenge and embrace 100 people. If you are one of the people that are on this webinar live, and if you're sharing the recording or you're sharing this on Facebook Live, we're going to give you some perks, because we are looking for a few people that want to build this community of like-minded lifestyle entrepreneurs, regardless of what service-based industry or product that they're selling. We want to bring people together that are like-minded. This is not going to be a bunch of, pitching and hyping and people are going to be trying to sell you, cross-selling. None of that's going to take place inside of our challenge community. We want to respect each other's businesses. We want to respect each other as human beings and professionals, but we're going to come together in a community of vast different backgrounds and experiences, and we're going to bring resources together. Encouragement. Jim's going to be providing some content from his 18 different books and his vast archives of different videos and experts, and he's got a whole bunch of peers that have pretty lengthy descriptions and titles and backgrounds and bios that you will get a chance to get a piece of their resources and their information as well. But if you are watching this live, we'd love for you to be one of those participants, and you can join in with us by just going to our Facebook group. And you can find that in the email confirmation or the recording of this information that we're going to send out to everybody. Just go and join in on that group. If you have registered, we'll go ahead and add you to the group. But we'd love to have you add more people. If you have people or peers in your group that you think, you know what, I would love to have Shelly or Bob or Susan to join in with this thing and be a part of it with us, add them in, because we are going to have a lot of fun over the next 8 weeks.
Absolutely. This is about you. We could talk all day about ourselves and tell you what we've done, but this is going to be driven by you to a large extent. So if you express what you want, what you're interested in, what you're curious about, how do I deal with X? How do I deal with Y? Yeah, that's fine for you, but what about me? If you let us know those things, your questions will drive the content. And that's why we limit it to 100 people. There's only so many we can handle and really do our job well. But we realize that there's a whole lot more knowledge out there than there is in here or in David, right? There's 2 of us. There are zillions of you. So we need to learn from you, and we all should be collectively learning from each other about how to make better and better choices. Even if you're in a position where you have no desire to change your career path, no desire to change your current employer, but you do want to free up more lifestyle choice in your world. And I can give you examples readily of how many others have done that. I mean, just yesterday, my son, who is quite content to be a long-term career employee at a Four Seasons hotel and not be moving all around the world to the other hotels. He chose long ago to stay in human resources instead of trying to become a hotel general manager because he knew he could have some stability. And he's got 2 kids at home who are early teenagers now. He and his wife, Sonia, who is a school teacher, who has an assignment 2 blocks from their home. Are you kidding me? She's a school teacher 2 blocks away from their home in California, can walk to work in the rain and not get wet. I mean, it's amazing. And they decided, since music is a big part of our life, you know, I play guitar and sing. My wife sings with me professionally. My son loves to play guitar, and he's taught his kids, and they play keyboard, and they play guitar, and they play ukulele, and they play drums and bass. So he bought all those things, and they converted their living room into a sound studio. Living room. They decided to forego entertaining in the living room that were not musical, and to make their home an ideal environment for the kind of lifestyle they wanted to cultivate. And so when they want to do some entertaining that doesn't involve music, then they either go to another place or they do it in the backyard of the family room, but not the living room. You know, the little choices like that can make a huge difference.
And as you can probably imagine, all of us that are listening and watching, and after we heard your background and your experiences, this stuff has a ripple effect. I'm very confident that Jim Jr. has probably come up with a lot of these ideas about designing his living room and designing his life. Even though he may choose a different career path, he's using the same principles that Jim and his wife Paula have leveraged to put together this amazing life. And all of you can be a part over the next 8 weeks to learn about these principles and these strategies. And while we can give you great coaching from stage or from the video, it's going to be the dialogue from all of us and the experiences that we're all grabbing and the takeaways that we're reading and participating and sharing with other people that are going to make us all want to take that next step and overcome the fear, or to embrace the obstacle as the way and to overcome the barriers that we're all facing. Listen, hey, all of us are facing something. All of us are dealing with some sort of sickness, disease. Maybe we have relationship challenges. We have physical challenges, pain. All of us have stuff, but that does not prevent us from living an extraordinary life and developing a business or a career that is centric around living that extraordinary life and living true to our values. And I hope that each and every one of you join in with Jim and I as we continue to lead out, because as much as we need you, I think that you would like to participate with us. It'd be fun, right, Jim?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was just looking at the chat feed over here. We're talking about motorcycles on the side. Oh, man. You know, you talk about challenges people have, and some of our regular viewers realize that I was in the hospital just 2 months ago, or 2.5 months ago, and had major surgery, and bounced back 12 days later, back on the hiking trails, and now I'm running and equaling or bettering my former personal best times on each of the mountain trails. So, you know, that even things like that, you know, yeah, I have the same kind of issues. Several years ago, I had a major health crisis that threatened to keep me down significantly, but I was able to figure out how to get around that and get back to being totally vital and robust. But I recognize, you know, in some cases, it does cut you down to a different level of operation, and you have to make new choices. I was just watching a TV show this morning. It was a morning interview on Fox and Friends, I think it was, one like that, where they had a wounded warrior who had lost all 4 limbs and chosen to become a professional motivational speaker and build a retreat where people could come with disabilities and learn to kayak and canoe and do things like that. I mean, this guy's completely rebuilt his life. He's generating over $1 million a year, and he doesn't have an arm or a leg on either side of his body. He's using prosthetics for all of that. And my gosh, what an attitude. What an amazing guy. I wish I remembered his name right now. Sorry, I don't. But, oh my gosh. And Nick Vujicic, a guy who from Australia who was born without arms or legs. He is a torso and a head. He lives in Thousand Oaks, California, travels the world giving speeches mostly at churches. And you can see him on YouTube. Vujicic, I don't know how you spell it, V-U-J-I something or other. But just, look for Nick V on YouTube and watch some of his YouTubes. If those people can choose a lifestyle and they've got none of the tools you and I have for just normal daily living, how much easier is it really for you and me when our major challenges are often emotional rather than physical or even financial?
Yeah. So if everybody is ready to jump on this hog and ride, let's do so, because we only have room for 100 lifestyle entrepreneurs. So if you know of a lifestyle entrepreneur who's looking for bigger dreams and goals and has a lot of passion and desire and hunger to do the extraordinary work that's going to take to make those things happen, add them into the group, and let's fill up the group with 100 people that are motivated and committed to really give back to the community. And Jim and I will pour in all the resources that we possibly can over the next 8 weeks to help each and every one of you develop extraordinary results. So I look forward to seeing here. We're going to be back here at the same time next week. It's going to be June 6th, Tuesday. That's going to be our kickoff. It's session 1 of our 8-week challenge. Jim's going to be in China living the extraordinary lifestyle and speaking to a whole big group over there, and he starts his world tour. But I'm going to be kicking things off with developing your extraordinary life and business plan, and then we'll have some action steps inside the private group where everybody can take action. They can watch a copy of the recording, and we can continue to move this thing forward. And then Jim will come back and tell us a little bit more about what he learned on the other side of the world on June 13th, which would be our second session. So, Jim, thanks so much for being here. I look forward to this next 8 weeks. We're going to have a lot of fun, my friend.
We certainly are. Hey, folks, I really appreciate all the involvement, and thanks for the chat room. I've enjoyed following the feed on that as well. We'll see you soon.
Throw a comment down on the Facebook Live video if you're watching, and let us know if you're interested. Otherwise, we'll be sending out an email to everybody that registered. Talk to you soon, everybody. Have a great day.